Hello fellow people persons, this is Nate here for MMO Play reviewing SMITE's surprisingly deadly ankle biter Ratatoskr, heretofore referred to as Rata because it's easier. Rata is part of the Norse crew, a messenger squirrel from the World Tree Yggdrasil that carries messages between two uber beings whose names I won't bother butchering, but is otherwise a fairly small character in mythology, most of his popularity gained in comic and video game culture. He's been part of my SMITE crew for some time, but I've ignored him up until now due to my gradually diminishing fear of melee combat and the fact that he's almost too cute to be taken seriously. Ironically, over the course of playing him for this review, he's proven to be one of the most fun and accessible, let alone deadly characters in my roster. So, yes, Rata is tiny, but there's an inherent advantage to being a tiny, deadly thing among tall, powerful gods, too busy flexing at each other to notice you're about to introduce their face to your nuts. What Rata lacks in presence, he makes up for in speed and guile, moving quickly across the battlefield in unmatched leaps and bounds while maintaining a barrage of damage even after he's escaped danger. I primarily played Sapphire Acorn build, which attaches a nut to enemies upon landing certain attacks that explode with damage a few seconds later. In every PvP game I've ever played, delayed damage is almost always underestimated and cast aside in favor of the immediate gratification of direct damage. But anyone who's gone up against a Guild Wars 2 Mesmer will tell you that delaying the inevitable can be more effective than offering a threat that's immediate and thus immediately countered. In SMITE, remaining on the field as long as possible is part of an assured victory, which also means taking chances with your health, escaping only once the healing power of your safety zone is necessary to continue. As I mentioned in my best stat video, check it out if you haven't, that means this delayed damage has the potential to sink those last minute kills where more obvious fireballs and sword slashes can be avoided. With Rata, the delay of his slot 2 skill, particularly when paired with the attached explosion of Sapphire Acorns, accounted for the majority of my kills. Enemies would back off only when already low on health, unaware that that small portion of health they were saving was already spent. They were dead on their feet, and I'd be long gone and on my way to spend my hard-earned gold well before their death was announced to the arena. While Sapphire was definitely my favorite of all the available options, he has 3 other Acorn styles that affect his other melee skills. Before going into that though, the one you see me most often opening with, Dart, is the one you'll probably find yourself spamming frequently as well. Dart's damage kinda sucks, but it comes with an innate automatic recharge if it hits a god that hasn't already been hit within the last 10 seconds. This means darting around the battlefield from one god to the next. In the arena, this is especially deadly as this skill allows Rata to dash headfirst into battle without sustaining too much damage if used correctly. Consider rushing towards a full enemy team darting directly towards the tank, only then to quickly dart to the god behind them, dodging the previous attacks while skipping right to the enemy's flank. Next up is Flurry of Acorns. So this is not my favorite skill of Rata's, though it definitely has the highest potential for damage. Flurry creates a dozen acorns that do damage both on spawn and then on the way back to Rata's position at the end of the skill. Setting this up prior to a dart can mean hitting several gods for a decent amount of damage as they return to you. However, the damage is spread out across 12 acorns and I've never had much luck getting them to land effectively. I'm definitely still new to Rata, so that may change with time, but overall I found this more effective as a crowd control skill along with his Sapphire Acorn path, as the blue precursor adds a slow effect to those hit by the acorns. Next is Acorn Blast, which is hands down my favorite skill. It's a high damage burst skill that's a cone and is heavily modified by his blue acorn paths. The damage is spread out across his acorns, so it's especially powerful when used in melee range as this guarantees all acorns hit a single target, or it can be used at a greater distance, spreading out the potential damage and crowd control effects of his acorns across a group of many. Finally, his ultimate skill, Through the Cosmos. Man, I hated this skill when I first played Rata, like with a passion. Delayed is an understatement in regards to this skill, which not only has a very long charge-up time, but requires planning far in advance before use, as the damage only happens several moments in. Upon use of the skill, Rata leaps into the air towards a ghostly branch and hovers out of dangerous range. He can leap from one branch to the other up to 3 times, including his initial jump. The final 4th leap, a crash down landing that hits all enemies in range. Using this skill effectively requires a change of mindset over other gods who generally just kind of point and click and nuke. Rata, however, is, at his core, a strategist's friend. This ultimate seems to function best when used as an escape, especially if said escape is actually a feint. High in the air, enemies seem to all but forget you were ever standing right in front of them, creating an opportunity to survey the battle and crash down on especially vulnerable enemies. I've used this ultimate to get kills from across the entire arena, leaving my safety zone and branch hopping towards theirs, crashing down just as they attempt to leave the battlefield with low health. Follow that up with darts from one enemy god to the next, and you can move from your base to theirs and back again in a flash. As for his passive Acorn skill, on its own is a great passive that offers Rata some damage gear for free right at the start of a match. The Acorn can then be upgraded at any time, from anywhere across the arena as you earn the money to do so. Each path further augments Rata's abilities and creates at least 4 distinct paths for Rata, adding diversity to his kit and making it that much harder to predict and counter his abilities. The 2 paths, blue and yellow, buff either Acorn Blast or Dart respectively, adding healing and crowd control abilities dependent on the player's final choice. Rata has great range in his potential roles and fills them all well. In the hands of especially masterful players, he can devastate enemy ranks while remaining a blur on the battlefield, difficult to pin down and difficult to defend against. He's an underappreciated and underutilized gem that, in the hands of even this very newbie SMITE player, can lead a team to an incredibly one-sided victory. And that's it for this round of SMITE reviews. Be sure to subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think of the character.